This week's news and all news is brought to you by my Patreons. They sponsor each and every news. Thank you, Patreons. You guys are the best. Villager arrested after alleged sexual attack on historic side of the Villages. Officials worried about impact of insurance crisis on future of the Villages. Husband arrested in murder of gay activist Timothy Smith. Unanimous decision rendered in $1,237 fine in Sod versus Stone controversy. Anonymous complainer targets a 12-year-old driveway at a home in the Villages. Unlicensed driver with Guatemalan passport arrested after a traffic stop. A New Yorker convicted of raping a child registered permanent address in the Villages. Attorney General warns that Floridians must remain alert to terrorism threat. A villager arrested at Courthouse in aftermath of neighborhood brawl. New pizzeria in the Villages offers dough made from scratch and friendly bar atmosphere. How many holes in one did we get this week in the Villages? Letters to the editor. This and more coming up. Let's have some more news. An official said Friday he is worried about the impact of insurance crisis on the future of the Villages. Community Development District 2 Supervisor Jim Cipollone said he has been informed by his insurance company that his policy will not be renewed. His home in the village of Palo Alto was built in the year 2000. Older houses, in particular houses before 2002, they won't insure them, Cipollone said. He said he's concerned about residents who are facing cancellation or soaring rates that can no longer be afforded. What's going to happen to the Villages if you can't afford insurance, he asked. It's going to be an issue. The Florida legislature is scheduled to meet in a special session next week to address the state's homeowners insurance crisis. Florida is in a unique position because of hurricanes and litigation. Many insurance companies have walked away. The state government is going to have to work on this one, said CDD2 Board Chairman Bart Zollner. Yeah, they're going to have to work very hard on it. I think Sue already told you guys during one of our porch settings that my house is 9 years old. We are going to that 10-year mark soon, and our insurance rates this year went up $400 a year, and I've never had a claim of any kind. A unanimous decision has been rendered in regard to the $1,237 fine faced by a villager in the Sod versus Stone controversy. Tom Murnan of the La Crescenta Villas appealed Friday morning before the Community Development District 2 Board of Supervisors at Savannah Center. Murnan purchased his home at 2819 Burgess Drive in 2022 with the stone already in place at the patio villa. He was found in violation of deed compliance on June 23 in a public hearing. He and other homeowners in the villa community were the subject of an anonymous complaint who lodged a complaint over illicit stone landscaping, which is not permitted at patio villas. Let me say that again. Stone, which is not permitted at patio villas. I bought this house from the village's sales team, Renan told the board. He said after he was found in violation, he followed the process by applying to the Architectural Review Committee. After some back and forth modifications to his plan, he won approval from the ARC. The mistake Renan made was not contacting community standards to announce he was back into compliance after removing the stone and replacing it with sod. I didn't know that either. Because he didn't make the call, he was hit with the fine, which was a surprise. I am $2,000 out of work, plus the cost of fixing the sprinklers, plus the time I had to miss work to attend these meetings, Renan said. Supervisors were sympathetic to Renan's plight. I personally don't think he should pay a dime. It wasn't his fault. He bought the house that way, said Supervisor Jim Aconte. The board voted unanimously to waive the fine. Well, congratulations. You won that one. An anonymous complainer targeted a 12-year-old driveway at a home in the Villages. Eric and Cheryl Jensen purchased their home at 3171 Southern Trace in the village of Southern Trace in 2020 for $395,000 through Properties of the Villages. One of the home's most attractive features was the driveway, which offers more room for parking and a turnaround. When the Jensens purchased their home, they were apprehensive about the heavy traffic, mostly fast-moving traffic on Southern Trace. Eric Jensen is a retired police officer and was heavily involved in traffic enforcement during his career. The speed limit might be 25 miles per hour, but people are driving 45 to 50 miles per hour. Yeah, I know. It gets frustrating, I know. You're in a retirement community, and it seems like everybody's in a hurry. Jensen told the Community Development District 3 Board of Supervisors during a public hearing Friday morning at Savannah Center they felt the driveway extension, which had been in place for more than a decade, was a terrific safety feature. An anonymous complainer called community standards on July 27 about the driveway, which was purported to have been put up without approval of the Architectural Review Committee. The Jensens were stunned when they heard about the complaint from community standards. They had no idea there was an issue with the driveway extension. The Jensens went to ARC seeking retroactive approval, but were denied. They had been hopeful because other neighbors have the same style of driveway. The Jensens tracked down the previous homeowner, a widow still living in the Villages. She provided a written statement indicating she believed, there's your key word, believed. She believed that she and her late husband had completed all of the proper paperwork for the extension at the home they had purchased in 2004. She wrote that the extension was completed in 2011. That's no proof. Whenever you get approval from the ARC to do something, I implore you, keep a copy of it. Don't ever throw it away. 10 years later, you could have somebody complain about something, throw it away, you got no proof. Don't depend on ARC or anybody else to keep records of your stuff. An unlicensed driver with a Guatemalan passport was arrested after a traffic stop in Wildwood. Nelson Anfori Hidalgo Lopez, 28, of West Palm Beach, was driving a gray Toyota Scion at about noon Wednesday on US 301 at State Road 44 when an officer ran the vehicle's license plate and learned the registered owner of the vehicle did not have a valid driver's license. Lopez was identified by his Guatemalan passport. Lopez was taken into custody on a charge of driving without a license and booked at the subsequent detention center. He was released after posting a $500 bond. I keep getting questions all the time, and I've had the same questions, and I don't know how to find the exact answer, but what happened to his car? He has no driver's license. Was the car towed in, impounded? Seems to me that's what should happen unless he knows somebody that's a licensed driver that he could release his car to drive the car home, which they could do that to anybody else, including me. If you don't, the car should be impounded, and then it's never reported. A New Yorker convicted of raping a child has registered a permanent address in the Villages. Robert Kenneth Mercado, 69, was convicted in 1995 in Washington County, New York, of sexual intercourse with a girl under the age of 11, according to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. Mercado registered an address on Wednesday of 3473 Galesburg Court in the village of Glenbrook. Mercado stands 5'9" tall and weighs 220 pounds, according to the registration submitted by the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. He has not registered a vehicle. I've said it 100 times. I'll say it again. Burn that face in your brain. Take a picture of it. Run a copy of it, and post it up to your family pools where children play. And if you see this guy up there, call the police right away. Following a confidential security briefing, Attorney General Ashley Moody and law enforcement leaders updated the media Thursday about growing terrorism concerns related to the ongoing war in Israel and increased security in Florida. Ahead of the briefing, Moody and the Florida Department of Law Enforcement sent a letter to the U.S. Department of Homeland Security demanding information about foreign nationals who entered Florida after being released by the federal authorities at the southwest border. The state has attempted to obtain accurate data from DHS about foreign nationals' whereabouts after uncovering an internal DHS memo warning of foreign fighters attempting to cross the border. As this threat persists, we are asking Floridians to help be our eyes and ears, Moody said. Moody is urging Floridians to be vigilant and report suspicious activity following the Hamas terrorist attacks on Israel and subsequent war. The FBI has warned about potential terrorist attacks. In an October 31 congressional hearing, FBI Director Christopher Wray testified that the terrorism threat is on a whole other level. They don't need to be starting anything in Florida and Texas because we are a carry state and people here will shoot you. They will shoot you graveyard dead, as Sheriff Grady would say. Special interest aliens are individuals who are from countries that have conditions that promote or protect terrorism or potentially pose a national security threat to the U.S. Recently, an uncovered internal DHS memo warned about foreign fighters inspired by or reacting to the Hamas terrorist attacks in Israel may attempt to travel into the U.S. through the southwest border among the surge of millions of illegal immigrants crossing. Moody is encouraging Floridians to report any suspicious activity to law enforcement. Some things to look for look like this. Unusual situations like a vehicle parked in an odd or prohibited location, or someone acquiring a large quantity of items like cell phones, timers, or toxic materials. Items like packages, backpacks, or luggage are left unattended. Damage to security devices, for example, cameras, perimeter fencing, or lighting. Prolonged observation and unusual photography of a building, bridge, or structure by a suspicious person. That'll be me. Doing videos for my YouTube channel, people will start calling me in. To report unusual activity in Florida, call 855-FLA-SAFE. That's 855-FLORIDA-SAFE. In case of an emergency, call 911. A 71-year-old villager was arrested Wednesday at the Sumter County Courthouse in connection with a neighborhood brawl this past month in the village of Carson Hammock. Linda Marie Cassis, 71, who lives at 867 Bowden Road, was taken into custody by Sumter County Sheriff's deputies at the courthouse in Bushnell. She is being held without bond at the Sumter County Detention Center. Her court file was not available to the public, but the arrest suggests the New York native had not complied with the terms of her bond after her October 2 arrest as a result of an altercation at the home of her neighbor in Trifou Terrace. I think I remember this report. On the day Cassis had driven her silver Nissan to her neighbor's home for help with a Bluetooth function on her phone, according to an arrest report from Wildwood Police Department, a man came out of his home and ordered Cassis off his property. Cassis says, as he told him, I don't have to. What area of the country are you from that says you can trespass anybody's property? He retorted by calling her an Italian bitch. Is this ringing a bell? Cassis got out of her truck and charged at him. He ran back into the residence and locked the door. Cassis began banging on the door as well as the side door window. The man was afraid she was going to break his windows, so he opened the door. She punched him 2 or 3 times in the face and kept grabbing him. She entered the residence, but he pushed her back out. A woman at the home attempted to separate them during the altercation. People. What's the matter with you? The newest Marco's Pizza location has opened in the Magnolia Plaza in the Villages. Bringing Marco's Pizza, making prowess to the Magnolia Plaza location is local entrepreneur Pete Hiles. Hiles has worked in the pizza business for over 30 years and currently owns 8 other Marco's stores in the greater Orlando area. Hiles has developed a strong connection with the village's community and is proud to introduce a new local eatery to retired residents in the area. Operating within a prosperous market and tight-knit neighborhood, Hiles is confident that the Magnolia Plaza location is the perfect fit for his new Marco's location. Contributing a new sit-down dining option to the area, the 2,400 square foot Magnolia restaurant is equipped with indoor seating and a bar to create a true gathering space for local residents. Remember, it's not just for local residents. All these are open to the public, anybody that drives through. This is not the first Marco's Pizza location that we have opened, and judging by the experience so far, this sure won't be the last. We are acutely focused on using our new business to forge local connections and get back to our community, establishing our new Magnolia location as a role model small business in the area. Marco's has carved out a niche in the industry for its high-quality pizza, known for its dough made from scratch for a craveable golden crust, freshly mixed herbs and spices for a sauce worth savoring, and 3 fresh signature cheeses for a perfect melty bite. I got some of these pizzas has too much cheese in it. I know somebody's going to say, oh, there's never enough. Yeah, there is. Now Magnolia Pizza lovers can experience the delicious goodness they've been craving. I'm going to go try it, and I'm going to do video when I do, and I'm going to show you a picture of a pizza that supposedly should have meat on it. And I will give you my honest opinion of it. Flavor-wise, how it tastes, crust, how it is, and is there meat on it? Most of them say there's meat. There's no meat. And the meat that's on it, I've dropped that much down the sink. A villager was arrested after an alleged sexual attack on a woman on a historic site of the Villages. Thomas Joseph Culver, 53, who lives in the village of Silver Lake, is facing charges of burglary and sexual battery following his arrest Thursday by the Lady Lake Police Department. Culver had been out to dinner with the woman, and they drove back to his home at 1234 Dustin Drive. He began pursuing her to perform oral sex on him. She refused and began to walk home. Culver began following her in his car. She eventually got into his car. Why? And they sat for some time in the vehicle in her driveway. However, she got out of her car and went into her home where she locked the door. Culver broke into her residence by breaking the door frame. He got on top of her on the bed. The Missouri native removed the woman's knee brace and her pants. He began to sexually batter her. She was able to kick him and ran outside. She began calling for someone to call 911. The woman was crying and shaking when officers arrived on the scene. Settle down, Jerry. Culver was arrested on a charge of driving under the influence in 2021 at Lake Sumter Landing and was taken into custody and booked, may get this, $100,000 bond at the Lake County Jail. Do you see the difference in the bonds here between Sumter County and Lake County? Lake County is much more serious to get caught in. A New Yorker was arrested after a late-night altercation at a popular night spot in the Villages. Margaret Susan Kresner, 64, of Webster, New York, was at City Fire at Lake Sumter Landing when Sumter County Sheriff's deputies were called to the scene shortly before midnight Saturday, according to the arrest report. By the way, City Fire has a nickname, the one at Lake Sumter. It's called the Meat Market, ladies. Kresner had allegedly pushed and slapped another individual during an altercation about a missing cell phone. Kresner reached into the person's pocket and took a $5 bill and a pack of gum. Kresner attempted to run away from the deputy who was questioning her about the incident. I'm trying to equate the two. Missing cell phone, so I'm going to steal your gum. She was arrested on charges of battery and theft, resisting arrest. She was booked at the Sumter County Detention Center and released after posting a $2,500 bond. A villager was arrested after a head-on golf cart collision on the multimodal path. Tracy Marie Boucher, 54, of the village of Marsh Bend, was driving a golf cart at about 5:30 p.m. Saturday on the golf cart path along Megason Road when the collision occurred, according to the arrest report. The other golf cart driver alleged Boucher came around the corner too quickly and traveled into the oncoming lane where both golf carts collided head-on. Passengers from each of the golf carts were ejected due to the impacts. Boucher initially claimed she had been blinded by the sun, but later said she was reaching to the floorboard to get her phone when the crash occurred. These cell phones, man, is just a problem with people. They just can't put them down and just leave them alone. It appeared she had been drinking, and she admitted she consumed one vodka water at about 4:30 p.m. while eating lunch with a friend. Her poor performance in field sobriety exercises led officers to conclude she had been driving impaired. She was transported to UF Health, the Villages Hospital, freestanding emergency room clinic at Brownwood, where she was medically cleared. She provided breath samples that registered .088 and .085. Yeah, it's just barely over. She was booked on a charge of driving under the influence at the Sumter County Detention Center and released after posting a $500 bond. Here's an update on one we reported a few months ago. I don't remember exactly when. A villager who repeatedly chugged wine at Publix has been ordered to get an alcohol evaluation. Emily Rachel McPherson, 35, who lives on Tuscaloosa Path in the village of Osceola Hills, was facing 6 charges of theft after going to the Publix at Lake Deaton Plaza and chugging wine in the store and leaving behind the packaging. Last week in Sumter County Court, McPherson was allowed to enter into a pre-trial intervention contract that could enable her to avoid prosecution in the case. The Wisconsin native must complete an anti-shoplifting class. She must seek an alcohol evaluation and follow recommended treatment. She must reimburse Publix for the stolen merchandise, and she must stay out of public stores in Sumter County. In the whole county? Oh, if she lives up to the terms of the contract, the theft charges will be dismissed. I just don't understand people's thinking nowadays. Here's another update from one we reported, I'll say a month ago. A villager will lose his driver's license as a result of a 4th of July golf cart crash, which sent his injured passenger to a local hospital. Mark James Dion, 64, the village of St. John's, had been driving a white Yamaha golf cart at about 9 p.m. when he crashed into the hedges at Pinellas Place and Buena Vista Boulevard. Dion's clothes were very disheveled and bloody. He was sweating and had urine and fecal matter on the backside of his shorts. A passenger in the golf cart was transported to UF Health Leesburg. How drunk do you have to be to poop your pants? God, Lord. Just thinking about that. There ain't no cop want to put him in the backseat of their car. Dion, who purchased his home in the Villages in 2022, struggled through field sobriety exercises. He provided breath samples that registered .155 and .153 blood alcohol content. This past week in Sumter County, Dion pleaded no contest to a charge of driving under the influence. The Walden, Massachusetts native will lose his driver's license for 6 months, has been placed on probation for 1 year, and has been ordered to perform 50 hours of community service. A homeless man from Guatemala was arrested on a drunk driving charge in the Villages. Elvin Gomez Sosa, 21, was driving at about 1 a.m. Friday on US 441 at Buena Vista Ares Boulevard near Spanish Springs Plaza when he was pulled over by Sumter County Sheriff's deputy. It appeared he had been drinking and agreed to take part in the field sobriety exercises, according to the arrest report. His poor performance in the exercises led deputy to conclude he was driving impaired. He provided breath samples that registered .127 and .120 blood alcohol content. A search of Sosa's vehicle turned up 14 grams of methamphetamine, marijuana, and drug paraphernalia. It was also determined that he did not have a valid driver's license. Well, I'm shocked. He was arrested on drug possession, a charge of driving under the influence, and a charge driving without a license. He was booked at the Sumter County Detention Center on a $5,500 bond. The husband of gay activist Timothy Smith has been charged with his murder. Smith and Herbert Swilley were married in a ceremony in 2015 in the Villages. Swilley was booked Friday morning at the Marion County Jail on a charge of first-degree murder. Marion County Sheriff's deputies responded at 10:50 a.m. March 25 to an apartment located 1980 Southeast 40th Street Road, Ocala, to conduct a well-being check on the 59-year-old Brookdale Senior Living executive, who did not show up for work on March 24th. When deputies made entry to the residence, they located Smith, who was dead. He had a dark ligature mark on his neck and blunt force trauma to his face and genitalia. Major Crimes Detective Daniel Pender responded to initiated a homicide investigation for the next several months. Pender investigated the case, gathering video surveillance, electronic evidence, and speaking to people who knew Swilley and Smith. Through the investigation, it was established that on the night of March 23rd, or in the early morning hours of March 24th, Smith was dosed with a large amount of diphenhydramine, an ingredient in Benadryl and Unisum that was 30 times higher than the normal therapeutic dose. Following that, Swilley murdered Smith by choking him to death with an unknown ligature and fracturing his cervical spine. Swilley then used his own vehicle to transport Smith's body from their shared residence to a nearby apartment that they maintained. Once there, Swilley placed Smith's body inside, staged a fake crime scene, and attempted to destroy evidence using household cleaning agents. Swilley returned to their residence and then drove Smith's vehicle to the apartment where he had left it. Swilley then walked back to their residence where he assessed their Ring camera application. Investigators later learned that the surveillance videos from that night were not present. Then a few hours later, Swilley drove to the landfill where he dropped off what appeared to be 2 carpets from their residence before going about his day. Investigation revealed that Smith had previously suffered domestic abuse by Swilley. It was also learned that Smith was close to securing a new job in another country and was planning to relocate there without Swilley. Investigators also uncovered that Swilley stood to profit from Smith's death, as he was listed as the beneficiary of Smith's life insurance policy, which totaled $333,000. Initially, Swilley pretended to be cooperative with law enforcement and provided them with a preliminary statement, but the investigation revealed that many of the things Swilley told investigators were false, self-serving, or contradicted by their evidence. When detectives sought to re-interview Swilley about these discrepancies, Swilley's attorney indicated that he would only cooperate if he was provided with immunity from prosecution for Smith's murder. Earlier this week, a warrant was obtained for Swilley's arrest. He is being held without bond. Smith was well known in the Villages where he worked in senior care. He was also an outspoken activist with regard to gay rights. I hate that. We all have the same rights. And perform as a drag queen. I have no comment about any of this. You wouldn't like it. Well, how many holes in ones have we got this week? Snowbirds are coming back. You see, it looks like we got 1, 2, 3, 4. Wow, we got 5 holes in ones. Let's check them out. Michael Conifay of the village of Sanibel got a hole in one Sunday on hole number 6 at Havana, Kilimanjaro. This is my second hole in one in my lifetime and my first in the village, as Conifay said. Well, congratulations there, Michael, on your hole in one. Second hole in one. A Village of DeSoto man was astonished when he got a hole-in-one. Stoogie Stephen Costin got the lucky ace on hole number 6 at Sweet Gum Executive Golf Course. Never saw it go in. I went to look for the ball, and when I couldn't find it, everyone said, "Look in the hole!" And there it was, said Costin, a member of the Old Fogies and Stogies group. Get it? Old Fogies and Stogies? Congratulations on your hole-in-one there, Steve. Village of Chitty Chatty golfer never thought she'd get a hole-in-one. Never ever thought it would happen to me. I am always celebrating the elusive birdie shots and grinning when I make a par, said Christine Leland. All of that changed on October 29 when Leland scored the lucky ace at hole number 2 at the Mickey Lee Pitch and Putt course. Congratulations on your hole-in-one there, Christine. A golfer was thrilled after getting a hole-in-one at a course in the Villages. Wendy Grubbs scored the lucky ace at hole number 4 at the Tarpon Boyle Executive Golf Course. That's all it says. Well, congratulations, Wendy, on your hole-in-one. And finally, Bud McFarlane of the village of Dunedin got a hole-in-one at the Heron Executive Golf Course. He scored the lucky ace at hole number 7. Well, congratulations on your hole-in-one there, bud. Let's get a couple of letters to the editor. Surely there's something interesting going on, right? There always is. Here's the original letter of why you should not buy a home in the villages by somebody. Oh my God, it's a long one. I don't remember it being this long. God, I hate it. And I think I'd love to read it to you, but why can't they make a point by doing short stuff? Why they got to write a book? All right, let me try it. To the editor, do not buy a home in the villages. Overbuilding without new amenities is destroying this place. If you're looking for a retirement community and like golf, buy anywhere else than the villages. I urgently urge you to consider the grave situation that is unfolding within the villages. It has come to my attention that securing a tee time has become an insurmountable challenge due to the village's management's reckless decision to construct thousands of houses in the southern region without the necessary accompanying of golf courses. I want to make it abundantly clear that I will actively dissuade anyone I know from considering the villages as their future destination. The current state of affairs has rendered the once enjoyable experience of securing a tee time virtually impossible. When my family and I first arrived here just 2 years ago, I could effortlessly secure a spot on a 9-hole golf course. However, today I am confronted with the shocking reality that no tee times are available until 4 p.m. This situation is nothing short of an injustice in my eyes. It has also come to my attention that the younger generation now appears to be in control, placing their financial interests above all else. The villages, once hailed as a retirement community, has tragically transformed into a mere housing project, devoid of the necessary amenities to justify a real estate of investment. The virtues of the past have been forsaken in favor of greed and hubris. I implore you to think twice before committing to the villages in its current state. That's sent in by Brad Shrunk, the village of Fernandino. Well, I don't know about everything else he's talking about, but I will tell you the tea time thing. This is not new, Brad. The tea times in the wintertime has always been a challenge. Always. And I've lived here full time now, going on 10 years. Been coming here for 25 years. So I've been around. There's a trick to getting tee times if you're using your computer. And if you're not using your computer to get tee times, this is your problem. Don't use the phone. First of all, I don't know what the rules are now. I haven't done it for a long time, but it used to be on a phone, you couldn't make tee times until 24 hours prior to the day you wanted to make a tee time. On the computer, you could make them tee times, I think it was 72 hours before you wanted your tee time. So you get what's happening here? If you want a Monday tee time, if you're doing it by phone, you can't call it in until Sunday. And if you want to do it on the computer, then you could get on the computer and get a Monday tee time. When would it be? On a Friday. Anyway, much earlier than you. So by the time you get on the phone, the good tee times are gone. They're already handed out on the computer. That could be your problem there. I don't know that for facts. I don't know what you're doing or how you're doing it. But I do agree with the other guy. You've only been here 2 years. And if you guys go back to some of the videos I've made in the past, what have I always said? It generally takes about an average of 2 years before people really start noticing problems. Whatever it is that trips your trigger, that's the problems you're going to notice. If you like to go to the squares at night and dance, 2 years later, you get to realizing things that you maybe never noticed when you first moved here, how crowded the squares were getting, or it's the same bands. They play the same songs over and over again. I'm just getting tired of it. I mean, I'm just using that as an example. Yeah, 2 years, he's just now noticing the thing that's his number one priority. That would be golf, and that's okay. And he's noticing how hard it is to get tee times. The only information I'm trying to help him with is I don't know how he's trying to get that tee time. This is in response to that letter. This is the reply to the man who is telling people not to buy in the villages. So sorry you feel this way after 2 years of living here, and all based on golf. You also seem to be upset about what goes on down south when you live up north. We have lived in the villages for 20 years on our second house. Lake Sumter wasn't there when we came, so we have seen a lot of changes. We have learned to go with the flow because the villages always seems to do everything right. I have to kind of disagree with that. I'm sorry. They are now opening 3 new golf courses. So for your 2-year attitude of telling people not to move here is shocking to me. You are not a tree. Move if you are that unhappy. If somebody's unhappy with something in their neighborhood, are you saying they don't have the right to try to make it better by complaining or whatever? To the editor, I know this is a controversial position to take, but I am in favor of anonymous complaints. That's not controversial. I am too. I have said it many times. I like the idea of anonymous complaints, and probably for the same reasons you're going to bring up. They were put in place to allow neighbors to make a report without the possibility of retaliation from the neighbor being reported on. This is a good thing and promotes neighborhood tranquility. That's why the anonymous complaint system was created. However, I am opposed to allowing trolls to ride through neighborhoods and report everything they see. Not sure that really happens. Nobody has ever sent me a picture of these so-called trolls riding around with a notepad writing stuff down. I put it out there. Anybody that gets a picture of these trolls, send it to me. I haven't gotten one yet. There is a simple solution to eliminate the trolls. Change the anonymous policy so that only one complaint per day from each specific phone number is allowed. That ain't going to work. Seems that most trolls won't want to take a month in order to report 20 violations. Granted, some will. But for the most part, this change should result in a much more meaningful and manageable system. That's sent in by Patrick De Palma from the village of Amelia. And with that being said, don't leave your keys in the golf cart.